ने बात की और बताया कि ईसाइयत की यलगार किस तरह से हिंदुस्तान पर हो रही थी और किस तरह ईसाइयत एक संगीन खतरा बन गया था। इस पर मजीद थोड़ी सी मालूमात हासिल करने के लिए हमने बात की डॉक्टर जोनाथन इंगलबी से। डॉक्टर जोनाथन इंगलबी रेडक्लिफ कॉलेज में, जो कि बड़ा मशहूर कॉलेज है इस थियोलॉजी का, रेडक्लिफ कॉलेज में मिशन स्टडीज के हेड के तौर पर रिटायर हुए। उनसे हमने ये जानना चाहा कि आखिर जब मिशनरीज जाते थे वो क्या अज़्म लेकर हिंदुस्तान गए थे, उनके क्या इरादे थे। तो इस वक्त हम पेश करेंगे डॉक्टर जोनाथन इंगलबी का इंटरव्यू, आप देख सकेंगे अभी। As we've discussed, we're talking about the history of the Church Mission Society in the British India, and we're trying to look at their activities, their motives. So if you can just tell us a little bit, I mean, historically speaking, what were the aims and purposes of the Church Mission Society when they headed to India?
I think the aims of the CMS, as we can call it, was the same as any other mission society. Basically, they were hoping to transplant, if you like, the Christian faith from Britain to India. They felt that this was a worthwhile thing to do. They wanted to plant churches, build up communities, spread the Christian message, and they hoped that in due course there would be an Indian church, a church with its own distinctive character, but still a Christian church which took its roots and its initial ideas from the missionaries who taught them.
So were they very firm in this faith? I mean, did they have anything? Did it have anything to do with their faith? What did they base this missionary activity on?
What, the missionaries themselves? Well, it seems to me you don't cross the seas. The early missionaries was a fairly dangerous journey. You don't cross the seas to a unfamiliar country without feeling that you have a message, without feeling that there's something important that you want to do. They weren't getting highly paid. It wasn't a commercial interest, as far as we know. They simply felt that they had an important message and they wanted to get it across, and they were prepared to make certain sacrifices for themselves and their families in order to do this. So, yes, you could say they had a firm faith. I think firmer than most of us have because of the action it resulted in.
Yeah. Did they base this on anything said by the Jesus Christ to spread the gospel?
Yeah, I mean, the key saying of Jesus, which I think most missionaries sort of had, as it were, in their back pocket, was go into all the world and make disciples. So you have this idea that you can't stay where you are if other people don't know the message, and you have this mandate to go into all the world and to spread the message. That particular verse goes on and says, teaching people all that I have commanded. So the message is the teaching of Jesus, and they felt that was important for everyone.
Absolutely. So we see that the missionary activity was carried out almost all around the globe. Yes. But why is India so important, speaking of missionary activity?
Well, I mean, here you have the accidents of history and to some extent geography as well. William Carey, the first Protestant missionary to India from the UK, pointed out that there were opportunities which were provided by the fact that ships were now regularly travelling between Britain and India, and that if the government agent and the trader could take those ships, so could the missionaries. So, I mean, to be quite straightforward about it, it was possible to get to India, and so they took up the possibilities. And of course, the British investment in India was huge. Not always creditable, not always a good thing, but it was huge, and the missionaries found it easy, therefore, to, as it were, to ride in on the back of that.
Mm-hmm. But India was, although I agree that it was very easy to travel to India, but we see that the people that belonged to the religions that were prevalent in India were very staunch and very rigid in their beliefs. Yeah. So it must have been very challenging
I think it was a huge shock to them. I think the early missionaries thought, India would become Christian. And they were very naive about this. They talk about winning India for Christ. I think they were, very naive, as I say, about the opposition that they would face. And when we look back on it, we think, well, why should they think that these religions, which were themselves ancient and well established, should suddenly collapse in the face of these few people arriving from UK? That was their faith, if you like, their naive faith, but they certainly had it. Now, as time went on, they realized it wasn't going to be as easy as they thought it was going to be. And they worked out different strategies and also different answers to the question.
नाज़रीन, ये था डॉक्टर जोनाथन इंगलबी का इंटरव्यू, जो कि फॉर्मर हेड ऑफ मिशन स्टडीज़ थे रेडक्लिफ कॉलेज में। उनसे भी हमने सुना कि किस तरह ईसाई मिशनरीज जो वहाँ पर जाते थे, वो एक तो जो दीनी बुनियाद थी इस मिशनरी और एवेंजलिक एक्टिविटी की, वो ये थी जो हज़रत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम जो गॉस्पेल में उनको, बाइबल में उनको मिलता है, इंजील में, कि इस पैगाम को आम किया जाए, तमाम दुनिया को डिसाइपल बनाया जाए, सिर्फ मानने वाला भी नहीं बल्कि डिसाइपल के दर्जे तक लेके आया जाए। और फिर अभी डॉक्टर जोनाथन ने भी बताया कि ईसाई मिशनरी ये अज़्म लेकर गए थे कि हिंदुस्तान को के मुसलमानों को और दूसरे मज़ाहिब रहने वालों को जो है वो ईसाई बनाया जाए और एक इंडियन चर्च की बुनियाद रखी जाए उस एवेंजलिक एक्टिविटी के नतीजे में। तो यह था डॉक्टर जोनाथन इंगलबी। और नाज़रीन, हम जिस तरह हर दफ़ा बताते हैं, हम जो इंटरव्यूज़ इस प्रोग्राम में प्ले करते हैं, पहले भी मुतअद्दिद इंटरव्यूज़ चलाए गए हैं, अभी भी हम सुन रहे हैं, इंशाअल्लाह ताला अगले प्रोग्राम्स में भी आते रहेंगे, कुछ अगले प्रोग्राम में भी होंगे शामिल इंशाअल्लाह। ये हम एक इंडिपेंडेंट ओपिनियन, उनकी ज़ाती राय हम यहाँ पर बयान करते हैं। इंटरव्यू में आने वाले यहाँ पे हज़रात जो कुछ कहते हैं, उनसे हमारा 100% मुत्तफिक होना ज़रूरी नहीं है, उस बात को जमात अहमदिया का मौक़िफ़ न समझा जाए। तो ये एक वजाहत है जो हम बहरहाल इसके साथ करना चाहते हैं।